Hello and welcome to this week's Thursday Thoughts. The theme for this week is the Great Get Together and combating loneliness. The Great Get Together is inspired by Jo Cox, who was killed on the 16th of June 2016. In her first speech in Parliament, Jo said, "We have more in common than that which divides us." Through the Great Get Together, people across the country are asked to embrace Jo's words and celebrate the belief that community makes us. People are encouraged to connect with others and show the power we have as a community. Jo's family and friends first organised the Great Get Together in 2017 and since then have seen millions of people across the country take part in thousands of events. People are also invited to come together throughout the year. Faced with the recent challenging times, it was thought that the Great Get Together this year would have to be cancelled. However, the Great Get Together community were overwhelmed by the inspiring stories of how communities have supported each other across the UK. Physical distancing has motivated many of us to stay socially connected. This year's Great Get Together wasn't in its traditional form, but there was still plenty that could have been done to connect while staying safe, such as a community sing-along, where neighbours picked a song and shared lyrics and they were able to schedule a time to step outside and sing together. Pass it on stories or poetry, where neighbours wrote a line, sent it to another neighbour to add a line, and so on. There were dance classes and exercise classes that were ran outside for neighbours to join in. Neighbours also shared recipes per household and they created a community recipe book. Some neighbours had their own bake-off where they baked and presented masterpieces for the community to judge. Also, some people sent postcards or delivered flyers of encouragement along their street. This year, the Great Get Together took place between the 22nd and the 24th of June. You can go onto the website to see how people celebrated this year and in previous years. The Great Get Together is a fantastic way to try to combat loneliness and social isolation, as it's normal to feel stressed when faced with staying indoors and interacting less with people, especially when that is added to the underlying stress of worrying whether you will catch the virus. These factors could increase your chances of developing a mental health issue like anxiety or depression. While social distancing refers to avoiding large gatherings of people, staying a certain distance from others in public and only going out the house for essentials, it can still start to feel a lot like cabin fever. What's the best way to get through this period of isolation? There are many strategies that you can employ to ensure your well-being and good mental health. Most of these involve either finding ways to distract yourself or finding ways to connect with others. If you are unable to go to places or interact socially with many people at this time, you might be wondering what you can do. There are a number of ways to combat loneliness, such as keeping to a schedule. Even if you are isolated at home, try to keep to a regular schedule as much as possible. While loneliness can feel like it will never end, trying to make these days feel as normal as possible will help you to get through. Start each day with the plan of a few things that you will do. Keep a daily diary of how you are feeling and what you are doing. Try to stay informed. While you do not want to feed your anxiety and fear through constant updates about the state of the virus, keeping an up-to-date of the latest advice and health information may give you an edge when it comes to protecting your mental health. and as a result reducing the impact of loneliness. Limit your media consumption to an extent. Watching too much news, reading too many articles, and consuming too much content can be overwhelming. You should try to stay active. While it's easy to focus exclusively on how to manage your mental health and loneliness directly during a crisis, we sometimes forget that our physical and mental health are delicately intertwined. If you spend weeks of isolation not getting any exercise, this will have a detrimental effect on your ability to cope mentally. Try to connect with others. Perhaps the best thing you can do to combat loneliness during this period of isolation is to connect with others in non-traditional ways. While you may not be able to visit with family and friends in person, that does not mean that you cannot connect. Can you think of any out-of-the-box ways to stay in contact with friends and family? If you are comfortable using technology, there are numerous ways you can stay in touch. If you prefer more traditional ways of communicating, there are still options for you, such as sending a handwritten letter or postcard, or calling somebody on the telephone. You should try to distract yourself, as another way to boost your mental health is to find healthy distractions. This might come in the form of reading, watching shows, listening to music, or finding other activities that interest you. For this week's Thursday Thoughts Challenge, can you think of ways that you have combated loneliness in the past? Describe what you did and discuss if it helped or not. Or you can describe creative ways to take part in the Great Get Together when socially distancing. You can use the website www.greatgettogether.org to give you ideas. There are a number of organisations that can offer support if you are dealing with loneliness or other issues. There is Mind, The Mix, and the Samaritans. That brings us to the end of this week's Core Connects Thursday Thoughts. Thank you for taking part.